Hello, everybody, and welcome to Budget Nerds Live. Well,
Heyo!
we did it. We did it. I see some people rolling in already. Michelle is ready. She's like, let's do this. I love it. I love it. We got Angel here. We got Blaine. Welcome, welcome. Go ahead and type in. Tell us where you're coming from. We always love to see that. Lots of hellos coming in the chat. Thanks, everybody. So we haven't done a live in a couple of years. Is that right, Ernie? Or did we do one last year?
We did one last Thanksgiving-ish,
Okay,
I
okay.
think.
Maybe
Yeah.
it'll be an annual thing. I see Brooke. Hello,
Brooks here. Yep.
Brooke. Oh, lots of familiar names, actually. So, I mean, I feel like we got kind of a pretty tight community on YouTube. I see a lot of
Absolutely.
the same names, and yeah, it's always fun, especially the live squad, like there's some people that come to all the lives, and that's always fun. So, Stacy's in Texas, Arletta in Warsaw. Cool. Giovanna in Toronto, Leslie in Georgia. Oh, wow. People are typing all over now. Yeah, Michelle's in North Carolina. Oh, you're pretty close to me then. Okay, cool. Oh, we got folks in Melbourne. We got people everywhere. Look at
All
this.
over the place.
All right. I love it. Love to see it. So, what are we doing, Ernie? We're just going to talk about whatever, right? Any questions
Yeah.
anybody has.
Yeah.
And
We pulled the fans group again. That's always a great starting point.
yes, thanks, Brooke, for that. If you don't know, Brooke is the one of the admins of the fans group on Facebook, and they're always a source of questions and chat. If you post on there, man, they are active. So yeah, we got a bunch of questions to start, but if you have more, we'll definitely prioritize the questions in the chat as much as we can. And yeah, should we just dive into it?
Let's go.
All right, first question. Actually, tell you what I'm going to do. I don't know if I can keep this up, but I'm going to post the question in the comment, and then I'm going to show that comment with our fancy software. Okay.
I'll try to help you out.
Okay, I got this first one here. Jennifer says, how many times have each of you done a fresh start? And what reason would you consider doing one in the future? I love this question. Ernie, why don't you tell them what a fresh start is, just in case people don't know?
You're starting over.
Yeah.
But you're starting over in a really quick way. With a fresh start feature, it brings over your accounts, your bank links, your categories, your scheduled transactions, right? So all the customization you've done, you don't have to redo. It just deletes all the actual YNAB data.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can start this new plan. I mean, seriously, you get it up and running within just a couple minutes.
Yeah, yeah. So if there's lots of reasons people do a fresh start. One, probably the most common, is you just fell off the wagon. You haven't approved transactions in a while, and you look up and you're like, oh my gosh, I have 200 transactions to go through, and it's not worth it. Just do a fresh start and start fresh. And what it does is it just keeps all your categories, but it just deletes all your spending, so you can just get started right away. I see some people said 0 fresh starts in 8 years, Ron. Oh, I wonder if your file is slowing down a little bit, because you got a lot of data in there. Does it take a while to load? I've heard that happen sometimes.
I wouldn't know, because I've done dozens of fresh starts.
Yeah, Ernie, why don't you start? Because I feel like you have the more interesting answer. How many have you done?
So when I first started YNAB, the reason I was doing fresh starts because I was discovering better ways of managing things and doing things in YNAB. So instead of just always working backwards and like trying to redo things, I'm just like, no, just start new.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I really got into a flow, I realized every January, I love making a new plan. And so I got in that habit. I know folks love their data. I love making a brand new budget. There's just something about it that brings me a lot of joy. And last January, I experimented with not making a new plan.
Is that the first time you didn't do that?
In a number of years, and I just didn't like it. I ended up making a new one this past July.
Oh, did you? Oh, that's right. I remember that. Yeah. I remember you talking about that. Yeah, because you just feel like there is something to be said of like, okay, it's nice to have all your data in one, like one continuous, one report or whatever. But I think that data can sometimes kind of be less useful over the years, because you're talking about like Ron, you have 8 years of data. I mean, like, do you care about like what your electric bill was 8 years ago? Like, no, you're probably in a different house. I mean, I don't know if it really matters. It might be cool to look at, but like, it doesn't really affect how you plan. So I think there's a benefit to just kind of shedding off
Yeah.
that old data every once in a while for sure.
And Ben, I'm with you. Ben in the comments says average spend, especially with rolling 3 or 6 month averages, makes it hard to switch. I totally agree because I use the average spent for electric, groceries,
That is hard.
gas. And so what I do is I look at what the average was in December, and that's the amount I assign in January. And then I just keep assigning that same amount for 3 or 4 months until it kind of starts to create that new current average.
Cool. Well, I thought I'd share my screen because I have dates on all my budgets, I guess, budget files here. So yeah, let me I'm gonna see if I can do this.
You do
Yeah.
that. I'm going to answer Kathy's question. Can you delete an old budget that you don't want anymore? Absolutely. But
Oh
you
yeah,
might
yeah.
you might regret it.
You just go and like hit this little can button here. I'm not gonna
Because
do it though.
my workflow was I would create a new one and then I would delete the old one. So I don't have my early year budgets, and some
It's a little
days
sad, huh?
that makes me sad. Yeah. So now I don't delete them anymore.
All right,
Just the test ones.
I've shared my screen here. I covered up my email address. But these are all our budgets. I have the Bodacious Barlow budget here. That is the alliterative name of our budget here. And yeah, I guess I've only had 4 in the 10, yeah, almost exactly 10 years I've been using YNAB. So this was my YNAB 4 budget. So you can see in 2015, January or December 2015, we switched over to the web app and I created a new budget then. So the reason why I did that was just because it was a new software. So that's pretty boring. But then let's dig in a little here. So I had that one till 2015, then new software, and I kept that for about 2 years until 2018 February. What happened in 2018 in February?
How are you going to remember that?
I have no idea. I almost said my youngest daughter was born, but she was born in 2019. So, I guess for some reason I felt like just changing my budget. So there you go. And then so I had that one for 2 years, then I had another one for 3 years, roundabout. Yeah, I thought this would be interesting, but it's not really that interesting. I don't know why I did this. I think this was a new house. No, it wasn't. No, because we were in here like way earlier than that. So, okay, you know what? Well, maybe this was the new. Kayla, when did we get in the new house? 2015. Okay, so that doesn't correlate to anything. So, all right. Yeah, I don't know why I made these fresh starts. I think maybe I just felt like I just needed a new something like a new perspective. I don't know
Yeah.
why. I thought I was gonna look at this and be like, "Oh yeah, that was the date when we had another baby," or "That was the date when I moved," and it wasn't like that at all. So there you go. Not very
All right.
interesting. Sorry.
Cool story. Also, I think it's a big no-no to have that test budget up there. Like,
Oh yeah,
if it's a dummy budget, I have to
you
have it
delete it.
deleted. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna delete it right now. You're right. That's horrible. I should have deleted it before I showed it because then it looks a lot nicer now, but you guys can't see it. So there you go. There you go. Gosh, there's so many chats now. I've like missed it going down memory lane there.
How about we take this question from Connor? How do you prioritize long-term goals alongside your more immediate obligations? Do you save X amount a month or set aside larger goal for years out?
That's a good question. I'll let you go first, Ernie. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think the key, and I wasn't ever able to save for long-term goals alongside immediate obligations until I discovered rule 2. Roll with the punches, or not roll, embrace your true expenses, because that allowed me to consider everything, right? Here's all the things I'm going to be spending money on over the course of a year. So I could plan for the unexpected flat tire or the water heater going out. So when those things popped up, I wasn't scrambling to come up with the money for it. And so by setting a little bit aside, then I just kind of developed this new baseline where I had everything covered to a certain degree. And then as I freed up cash or I had windfalls, I could start prioritizing that extra money towards those more long-term goals.
Yeah, that's good. I think a lot of that is about kind of protecting your cash flow a little bit. Like once you get all the rule 2 stuff dialed in, there's never, you never get it completely dialed in. You're always changing it
Right.
around. But yeah, like you said, you kind of have like a baseline of what your free cash flow is, and sometimes it might be big and sometimes it might be small. And it's going to change, but you kind of have like, okay, this is how much I have kind of left over. And then you can put that toward more long-term things or some more short-term things. Like what I do, I have a certain amount where my needs are met, my rule 2 expenses are met, and the rest I have in a category that I put in every month called next big goal. It's just a category called next big goal. And when I have a budget meeting with my wife, we allocate that. And it usually goes to the next large thing that we're saving for. Right now, it's a bathroom renovation. Okay. So that's kind of the way I think of it. Focus on taking care of the most immediate things first, including those true expenses. And you'll kind of get to a place where you settle into a certain amount of cash flow that you can start putting toward longer term things.
Mm-hmm. And then one other thing I'll say here, Connor, and anyone else, it's okay if you're not funding those long-term goals every single month.
Totally.
There are some long-term goals that I don't fund with monthly paychecks. I wait until the third paycheck of the month or the tax refund or some other windfall that Christy and I get. And then those big chunks go towards that long-term priority.
Yeah, it's a good question. Oh man, so many questions coming in. Aaron has one that feels very specific. I actually don't know. I think the payee field would just be blank for this one. If you delete a payee, what happens to the past transactions? They don't, the transactions don't go away. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I think the payee field is blank. Yeah, I think that's what happens. Yeah. Let's see what else we got.
We're not big reports guys.
Yeah.
But let's take a stab here. New user to YNAB, wondering how much you guys get out of the reporting side of the tool, the pie charts, the net worth, age of money seems useful, but how do you specifically use them? We really don't.
So I mean, I use them a little bit. Like sometimes I'll go to the net worth and be like, okay, cool. Like that's what my net worth is. Cool. And I do enter like you, Ernie, I have the investments and like value of the house and stuff like that in there just so the net worth report is nice. And then in the spending report, I do look at the trends sometimes, but it's never really like a huge thing. I just kind of look at it as like oh, this is kind of neat kind of a thing. That's really my main thing. The only reporting tool that I really use super actively to decide how I should make changes to the plan is the average spent. And I tend to look more at the auto assign one where it gives you a 12-month rolling average, because I think that's a little bit better.
Let me try to share my screen here.
Oh, Ernie's sharing his screen. Of course, he's like shown his actual budget on here before, so this is no big deal for him.
Okay.
I see a nice green field. There you go.
There we go. Yeah, here's the average spent right over here.
Yeah. I think that's really helpful. It's not a report. It's not in the reports tab, but it is an insight.
Yep.
Right there in your budget. And I think it's really helpful.
And spent last month is another good one that I like to look at.
Yeah. And another good way to do that is if you have a target on the category, compare that average spent to your target and be like, okay, am I actually being realistic here? I think that's really, I do a lot. And I love, we were just in a meeting just now, and one of our project managers was talking about possibly having an insight one day where like YNAB would notice, hey, you spent more than your target on this 3 months in a row. Like, you want to revisit that? That'd be pretty cool. Yep. We could automate something like that.
And the only other thing I would say, John, is for me, net worth. So I keep all my spending accounts in YNAB, all my savings accounts, and then I have all my investment accounts. And I manually update my investment accounts once a month. And then once I update those, I look, and I also have my mortgage loan. And then once a month, I look at net worth for seriously 10 seconds. I look what the changes from the month before. I say, cool. And then I move on.
Yep. Okay, since we're getting nerdy with the reports, let's talk about this one. Do you use any of the API things? So let me tell you what I'm talking about. So YNAB has a public API, which is just basically a very secure way to connect any application that also has an API to your YNAB account. So you can bring in information and bring in YNAB's information and display it in a different way in a different app, or you can write information from a different app into YNAB, right? So
I just put a link to the API page on our website.
yeah, so there are apps out there that we have vetted and put on that list to be like, hey, these are cool, check them out. Do you use any of those, Ernie?
I don't.
So I use one. Let me get the name. I want to get the name right. Hang on. Let me just here. I'm gonna share my screen again because I want to show you this. Okay. So there's a little it's called Sprout. I think it's called Sprout for YNAB. Maybe yeah, Sprout for YNAB. Okay. This is a pretty cool one that I use that I really like. It's very simple. All it does is add a little add-on on Chrome here, and you can add a transaction right there. So if I bought something on Amazon, I can be like, okay, here's $35 in my SoFi account on Amazon. Category is entertainment, and you can just save that transaction and it does it right away. That's pretty cool. It's not very fancy, but
Yeah.
I like it. It's pretty neat because it just any if I can get YNAB, like I like to YNAB while I'm YNABing, so I can like YNAB while I'm I could use it like while I'm YNABing.
And I could see myself using something like that because the reason I don't use these apps is it's just one more thing to keep up with.
Totally.
But this isn't anything you have to keep up with. You're just, YNABing while you YNAB, like you said.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. It's simple. There's lots of things that do, you can get extra reporting. There's people making a living off this. Like there's people that are like, hey, I want to like connect with banks in Australia because YNAB doesn't do that right now. You can do that and you can pay a little extra for that. There's all sorts of things like that. So yeah, check that out if you are interested in learning a little more about it. But I really like Sprout for YNAB. That's the one I use right now.
All right, here's a question from Dalen from the fans group. I thought this was really interesting. And this is something that I think we all think about a whole bunch, but don't actually talk about. How do you decide what should institute as fun money? Is there a line that y'all use as a transaction should have its own category versus coming directly out of someone's fun money? What do you and Caitlin do?
Well, I think the first one, and you adopted this rule, Ernie, right? If you go out to eat together, then it's your restaurants category. But if you go out to eat by yourself, then it's your fun money.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Your personal spending, right? Oh, actually, I think I misinterpreted this. I was thinking of this as like personal spending in like a couple, but they mean fun money. Okay, let me read this again. How do you decide what to institute as fun money? Is there a line y'all use as a transaction should have its own category versus coming directly out of someone? Okay, so
it's the same
Dalen
thing you were
said
talking about.
Someone's fun money, so I'm thinking this means like personal spending. Is
Right.
that what we're going after here?
Yeah, like clothing. Okay. Does that come out of the general family clothing line, or is it the fun money?
Well, if you're talking about clothing specifically, I actually have a Ben clothing and a Caitlin clothing and we have a kids stuff category. That's where we get the kids clothes. So yeah, we actually do separate that out, and that's probably because Caitlin would spend all the clothing money because she's more into clothes than I am. So we separated that out. But yeah, so sometimes we actually do separate it out just for more clarity. So that's an example of that.
Yeah, in that clothing example, I know in the past, if there's a lot of clothes being bought, like Christy refreshes her wardrobe and there's just not a whole lot of money in the clothing line item category, then, okay, we're going to use some of that, but you're also going to have to use some of your own fun money.
Right.
And then
if you exceed your clothing and you want more clothes, you use your fun money.
Yeah. But we share a clothing category, like the whole family does.
Okay. And
so, and now we're starting to put a lot more in it because boys are teenagers. They're buying more clothes and stuff like that. But so pretty much everything, it always comes out of the clothing category. But I know there was a time in the past where sometimes it's like, well, sometimes we're going to do it this way and sometimes we're going to have to do it this way. It's just case by case.
Yeah, I think there was a moment where we were like, I'm like, I need like underwear, you know, and like there's nothing in there. And I don't think we were really allocating a whole lot to clothing anyway, and we still don't. Like, we don't put a lot to our clothing. My wife's pretty thrifty. She gets clothes offhand a lot, and I'm mostly just buying like t-shirts and stuff, so it's nothing too crazy. But yeah, separating it has helped. But as far as other rules for personal spending, I mean, if it's kind of a vibe, like, it's sometimes it can be kinda tricky, like, if it's something that's just
Yes.
for you, you know, it's sometimes it's very obvious, you know?
Yep.
But then there are other times where it's like, "I want this thing, and but it's gonna benefit the whole family," then I'll have a conversation about it, and it's funny because Kaylin and I chat about it. She's gonna laugh at me 'cause she's right next to me, but, like, I'm usually the one that comes and makes a case for it not being in personal spending,
Yeah, yeah.
and she, like, doesn't want to make the case, so she just tends to buy things on her own personal spending a lot, and I'm like, and sometimes I'll see it and be like, "Hey, like, this doesn't have to be personal spending," and she's like, "I just didn't wanna have an argument about it, or I didn't wanna have a discussion about it." So, it is kinda funny when that happens, but that's
Yeah.
kind of our dynamic.
I recently did that. Well, not recently, a couple years ago with Christy. She bought an iPad, took it all from her personal
Oh,
category.
man,
I was
that's
like, no,
serious.
no, no, you're using this for like school stuff, like
Mhm.
homeschool stuff with the boys. No, we're gonna take a good chunk out of school and then a good chunk from your categories. So
Yeah.
yeah, I really just kind of feel it out.
This happened recently, with, um, a video game. Like, my kids have been getting into playing video games now, and I wanted to buy this new Mario game that came out last month. It's super fun. And but I knew the kids were gonna love it too, and so I'm like, okay, this is a family purchase, and I think we settled on, actually we got 2 games. I think we settled on, like, I paid for some of it, but not all of it. So it's just a discussion if it's kind of on the line. That's the bottom line for me.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, let me see what else we got here. Ron says, "The first time I've been able to watch you guys live, so I'm enjoying this." This is only the second time we've done it, so there you go.
Yeah.
Ernie's live more than me on YouTube though.
Yeah, I teach workshops every week. Will YNAB ever get a Canadian focused person to upload videos special to our retirement needs, reality of costs? We have someone,
Yes,
Maria,
Maria
teacher
is
Maria.
Canadian.
She primarily teaches live workshops with me, um, but she also has a TikTok channel and does a lot on Instagram as well. And I know there have been a couple videos that were Canadian focused.
Yeah, and I will say, I mean, even, we don't usually get too in the weeds with, like, insurance and retirement accounts, even American or otherwise, so, I think that's something that we could get more into, though, because there's definitely more general personal finance advice that I think we could give, so that's good. Let's see what else we got here. Somebody's asking about Fidelity. Fidelity's, yeah, that's an interesting one. You said, "Is there, any plan to reestablish connection Fidelity?" Not right now, because
Um,
they basically shut it down. Yeah,
yep.
unfortunately, but file-based import, it's a good way to go there for sure. Alright, let me grab one of these other questions that we have on the fans group. This is a good one from Carolyn, I think, and I like it because it's more of like a psychology of money type thing, so let me pop that in the chat. Carolyn said, "How do you handle the emotional disappointment when budgeting felt like a success? Oh, hey, I'm saving money and true expenses are mostly funded, and now feels like a failure after a major." Oh, and it cut off there. After a major life changes and way too many true expenses coming due in a single month. Okay, so some circumstances came up, and yeah, it kind of turned into a bummer there. So how do you deal with that?
I feel this one.
I
I
don't.
I lived through it this summer. So starting with maybe a little before COVID and through COVID, we were saving a lot of money. Like I just watched those category balances grow month after month. I'm like, this is awesome. Like I love YNABing every single day. You know, is always puppies and rainbows. But this past year we started, well, even the year before, just started spending because we moved to a new house and there were some things that we wanted to do. So it was spending that we really wanted to do and enjoyed it. And then some of that, there were some medical bills in there and some other things that I didn't want to pay for. It wasn't fun paying for. But anyway, I just saw this cash leaving and I felt that deflation. Like I felt it. I would look at the budget. I'm like, man, these category balances just aren't where they used to be. And that just didn't feel good. And so, and this has happened a couple times, numerous times to me in my YNAB, life. And I just have to do a reset. Like I have to change something. So I'm looking at the numbers differently. And for me, I usually end up doing a fresh start and I start changing my category structure. I start consolidating categories, sometimes separating them out. I go through my targets and I change those because the truth is in those moments, my reality is different than it was 12 months ago. And a lot of times all the structure and the numbers reflect that old life almost. And so there's just some kind of like mind trick that happens when I start changing things around and it all adapts to my actual current life right now. And then when I'm done with that little budgeting session, I really do feel better and I feel better moving forward because what I'm looking at is like reality. And I have this new kind of vigor to embrace it and then just keep moving forward.
I love that. Yeah, because if you're looking at, especially if it's like an ongoing cash flow change, if you're looking at this old plan, yeah, it can be kind of demoralizing if you're like, well, once again, I can't reach that goal, So it's just like totally blowing it up and changing it. I also think there's a mindset change you can focus on here too. I talked about this in a podcast. It was I think it was the last podcast that we did over the summer when Jesse was away. Um, I talked about how in August we had a big change um, in our childcare expenses. They went up like a whole lot, and as a result, we had to cut back on a lot of the big savings goals that we had, and it was really demoralizing. And I kind of sat back and started thinking about it, and I made this podcast about it, just kind of talking it out. And I realized, okay, I think it'll help to remember all the times in the past when things changed. Like right now, I'm kind of in a down period where I'm not saving as much as I would have liked, but I can remember those times when that was happening. And then the new season came along and I was in an up period again. So kind of looking forward to like, okay, things are going to change just like they changed for you and they went down a little bit. They're going to change and they're going to go up again. And just kind of be okay with settling in for a time and be like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to reach my goals maybe as fast as I did in the past, and just be okay with that, be content in that, and wait for the time when it is gonna shift and your cash flow is gonna change. And that could be a raise or maybe some expense that goes down. And just kind of acknowledge that, hey, this is a time when I'm gonna slow down a little bit, and that's okay. You know, I think that helps.
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked that question, Carolyn, because I think sometimes, and I'm very guilty of this, I'm sure we give the impression that, once you start YNABing, it's just all puppy and rainbows all the time, right? It's just this continual ascent, but nope, there's ebbs and flows, just like with every other area of life.
Mm-hmm. All right. Michaela had a good one here. How do you balance YNABing with a partner when your incomes are so different? I.e., 1/6 of my partner's monthly income. Yeah, or maybe like one person is staying home and the other person's working. Yeah, how do you handle that? I feel like we could get into like marriage counseling here at certain points, right? And that happens so much with money because your money just affects every part of your life, and so it really makes a big difference. But I think that this is something that I can tell it here. I'll just tell you the way that I do it. When Caitlin and I first got married, when we started budgeting, um, I made, I think I made $8,000 a year because I was a student and I was a grad assistant, and I was just a student, and I think she made 40,000 a year as a a web developer. So I was pretty close to where you are actually, Michaela, because I was 1/5, and this was early marriage, but we just considered all of our income as shared, and we made decisions about it together. We both had an input. That I mean, if you are going to have your income shared, it's really important that you both have equal um, input as well on what your plan is going to look like. And so because we always had that communication set up from the beginning, it wasn't too hard to just consider it all both of ours. Now I still make less than my wife, but not a whole lot less, and we still do the same thing. It's all just kind of one. Your relationship's going to look a lot different, though. I mean, I don't know what what your dynamic is between you and your partner, but I think a lot of it depends on um, you know, I feel it feels like such a cliche, Ernie, when I'm like, it all depends on communication, right? But it really does. I think so long as you're talking and understanding each other, that's the key there.
And the other possibility is you split out the expenses. Maybe if all the money doesn't go into one pot, it's proportioned out. You pay for 1/6 of the rent, partner pays for 5/6.
Yeah. That a lot of folks do it that way too, and it works well for them. So yeah, I just say talk with your partner and see which way you want to go. I mean, you can go completely separate finances, and yeah, a lot of folks, if they do, they kind of separate it out, so it's not necessarily 50-50, but it's proportional to your income, and I think that's a good way to go too.
All right, here's the spicy one. Oh, it broke it into two. Okay, so this is from Marissa. I don't think it was intended to be spicy. Ernie, how do you justify teaching people to use next month category when the program is designed for money to be budgeted into future months? It seems to fly in the face of rules 1 and 2 and makes...
I got you. We're both clicking. We did it.
It makes rule 3 way too easy, resulting in breaking of rule 4. What is it about this method that makes it preferable to you? Ben already learned this lesson when the month rolled over and his dollars were, I think that's jobless.
We're jobless. There we go.
It's funny because this just came up in one of the channels at work here. We're like, why are there 2 methods? And so what we're talking about here is assigning money into a future month. And this is just one of those core habits that YNABers get into, where they get to the point where they're living off of a previous month's income. So for example, all of the paychecks that Christy and I are making this month, November, that's the money that we're going to be using in December. And what a lot of YNABers do, as soon as they get that paycheck, they're like, I don't need to use it in November. So they flip over to December and they start assigning the money in the December plan. What I do, and probably half of the community, I think it's split pretty evenly, we put those current month's paychecks into a holding category. And the money just sits there until either the last day of the current month or the first day of the new month. Then we release it and we assign it to that next month. And here's my justification. I think I am following all those rules or habits, however you view them. In my mind, when I put that money into my holding category, it does have a job. It's going to sit there until the first of next month. And then at that point, then I'm going to give that money more specific jobs. And part of the job, some of the jobs are for the rule 2 true expenses. And then I just have this arbitrary rule in place where when I have to roll with the punches, when I have to make adjustments to my plan, I will not touch that pot of money for next month. I've done it one time and I was able to make an exception because I overspent in vacation and I took next month's vacation money.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that,
but that made sense. That made sense. You told
and the reason I did it is because it was so much overspending on vacation. I was running out of options.
Well, I'll tell you what, I did this too, actually, because I told you I have that next big goal category, right? But then I needed to take a tree down and, tree removal.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have that. I still don't have that category for trees that we've been talking about. And so I actually went forward a couple months and took the next big goal category. I moved that into the current month. So even if you're get moving into next month and just putting it there, you could still grab it. So
Yep.
I don't think it's you're more likely to steal from it necessarily if you
Yep.
put it in a category. I think it's just down to your personality.
Yep.
I mean, we've talked about this. I've been on a saga this year of trying this out and trying it out and hating it and trying it out again and hating it again. And I'm back to my old ways. I just assign money straight into the next month, and it just works with my brain. I don't know. I like it. But a big part of that is when I actually cover overspending, my rule is only cover from the current month.
Mm.
So you don't start breaking down your progress on rule 4 by dipping into next month, unless
Yeah.
you're doing it very intentionally, you know?
Yeah. For me, the holding category, it gives me so much clarity. Here's next month's, here's this month's money. And it also, completely lost my train of thought there. It gives me clarity, and it gives me information for decision making, right? Like when things get tight in at the end of the month, especially, I mean, I know that I can't take from that pot of money. So I really start thinking about some of these spending decisions and cutting where necessary to stay within in budget.
Yeah, it's huge. This is my sister, says hello. And she's talking about rule 4, so she loves this concept. And she does it your way, Ernie. I don't think we've talked about this, Trish. We need to chat about it sometime.
Love it.
I feel like I'm like, it's funny because probably most YNABers do just assign money right into next month because that's kind of the way the software is designed.
Yeah.
But I roll in the circles of the budget nerds. And I feel like most of like the people who are like in the communities and like hardcore YNABers do the next month category thing. So I feel like I'm like weird, but I don't think I am. I don't know. I mean, or maybe they just talk about it. You know, the people that talk about it are the next month category people. I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, I do think that there is some room to maybe be a little more, give a little more guidance in the software at some point.
Right. Because if you're new to YNAB, you'd have to watch a couple budget nerd episodes to figure out what your next step is.
So it's a little weird right now. I hope we can eventually change it up somehow. That's for the designers to decide. So yeah, this is interesting. For Stacey said, my income on the last day of the month does not even enter my budget until the 1st of next month via scheduled transaction. No holding category for a day or two. Oh, okay. So you actually delay entering your paycheck. That makes sense. I get that. You're like, I just don't want to deal with it. Right. Yeah. Just like have like one day where your account isn't quite accurate. Yeah. There's always that weird stuff with like, okay, I did the grocery spending on the last day of the month, but I could maybe date it for the 1st. And it'd be,
I am doing that. I'm doing that probably today or tomorrow. We are out of money in the groceries category. I need to buy new coffee beans because I've got like half of the grams that I need for my cup tomorrow. And I'm just putting it in December's plan. I don't care.
Marissa says, you're not weird, Ben. They're weird. Oh, and now my wife is coming in and saying I feel attacked. So, oh man, this is the spiciest thing. I love it. I'm so glad we asked that question. Oh, it's a good one. Okay, this is interesting. Leslie said, is there a mechanism for making and tracking a debt payoff plan like the snowball method? So there is a way to track if you use a debt account. There's a way to track how much money you're saving on interest, how quickly you're going to pay off that debt. There's pretty charts and all that stuff. But yeah, right now there's not like a way to like list all your debts and like calculate how long it's going to take for all of them. But yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I think that would be a good next step for like the loan planner that we have now.
Yeah,
would be to like, oh, let's take all those loans and let's make a plan for all of them. But
right, like how much money would I save with snowball method? How much would I save with avalanche method?
That'd be cool.
Anger method.
There is I think is it Undebt It? Undebt It.
Yeah.
Undebt.it is the website. They do that really well, and there's actually an integration with YNAB if you want to try that out. So that's a good place to go for that too.
Should I show the loan planner? I think that would be a cool demo.
Yeah,
Okay,
show
let's
it
do it.
off. Let's do it.
All right. Okay, we're gonna share once again. Oh, why does it always go to? I actually have the budget up. Okay, so I'm gonna loan accounts always have to be added as unlinked. Man, I'm totally going into teacher mode right now.
This is just an automatic thing Ernie says when he hits the add account button. He just can't not say it.
So let's say we're paying off a minivan. That's always the example I use because I love minivans. I always have, and I have one right now.
Mm-hmm.
$20,000. That's the balance. 5.5% interest, and I pay the bank $375 every month. So I'm just entering some basic information about my loan so YNAB can make some calculations for me. And then if you want, you can pair that account to the category that you have in your budget. Do I have a minivan? Yeah, auto loan. We'll do that one right there. And I'll just show you the account because we have this really cool payoff simulator right here. And like Ben was talking about, open this up and now you can start experimenting with how you can pay off your loan faster, right? You can change the monthly payment. Right now I'm paying $375. If I put an extra $100 towards that payment, I can see
I love that.
how much interest I'm going to save, how much time I'm going to save. You can make adjustments based on payoff date. And then also for those windfalls, you get an extra amount of money. What kind of impact is that going to have on my loan? So loan simulator, pretty rad.
And this thing came out right after I paid off my house. So I need to go get some debt so I can play with this.
I, have a new mortgage and
yeah.
I like playing with it. Just to see how much even like small little changes can make.
Well, we talked about this with Erin's when we had Erin on to talk about how she paid off her mortgage this summer. And she had she talked about using the loan planner, and we talked about how when you're talking about a mortgage specifically, it's wild because it's such a long time horizon and it's such a large amount. Like if you add like $30, you can be like, oh, you'll take off 7 years of your loan or something like that, the bigger the loan and the longer the time horizon, the more like small changes make a difference. And so yeah, I think it's really fun to play around with it, especially when it's a mortgage. Okay,
here's one.
We good.
How do we make sure the investment accounts like 401ks, HSAs from our paycheck is accounted for in YNAB, as that doesn't come out of our bank accounts? Is it done by connecting to our investment accounts? You don't need to pay attention to that stuff. You only need to worry about the money that actually lands in your bank account and give jobs to that money. If you want to track those HSAs and those investment accounts, you absolutely can. You need to add them as unlinked tracking accounts. And then you're just going to have to update the balance, however often you want. And I would keep it as simple as possible, once or twice a month. So when I do it, I'm like with my 401k, I am not adding the individual contributions from myself or from my employer. I just, at the end of the month, I make one big balance adjustment, and that wraps up all that activity into one transaction. And that's good enough for me.
Oh, that's interesting. So yeah, I actually do it a little differently for my 401k and IRA. I actually do a transfer to the investment account for my contributions. And what I like about doing that is when I do the balance adjustment, which I don't even do it once a month. I do it for a while. I was doing it once a quarter. Now I do it every once in a while when I feel like it. But what's nice about that is like when I actually make the balance adjustment, that balance adjustment is growth or loss.
Right.
So that's nice because all the rest is accounted for, but yeah, do whatever you want.
Yeah, because I have the individual Roth contributions coming out of just the category, right? Outflow, checking account category. And I don't transfer them. And so, yeah,
it still has a category because it's going to an off budget, but yeah, this is getting in the weeds. But yeah, the bottom line is payroll stuff. Don't enter that. There are people that do that. I have seen it. They do this massive split transaction every time they get paid, and it's like real detailed. And if you want to do it, go for it. If you know, be sure you know what you're doing. But as far as what you're planning in the budget, just only do that with after tax dollars and after investments if it's taken out of your paycheck.
Yeah, and the HSA, that is something, if I did have one, I would track every single piece of activity.
I do
So the
that. Yeah.
contributions and the expenses.
Yeah, and I don't even keep up with that as often as I do my other stuff. I mean, at one point this summer, I looked at my HSA and it said reconciled 3 months ago, and I was like, like the horror. But it's so few transactions. Well, I say that I have 4 kids. It actually has a lot of transactions, but but it's so few transactions. It's not that hard to keep track of. Um, I have one from. Let me see. This one's from Susie, and I don't want it to get cut off, so I'm going to try this and see if it. Okay, it's pretty close. All right, so this is most of Susie's comment from the fan group. Said, I just joined for the specific reason of getting my finances in order and getting out of debt. I want as much excess money as possible going to my credit cards. Any advice? Just setting up my first budget. Okay, I have a couple pieces of advice. One that's going to actually answer your question, and one that's going to be like, maybe you should rethink your question. That's what we do here at YNAB. Do you have any thoughts first, Ernie?
All I was thinking about is, maybe you want to rethink the question.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Well,
I share your first piece.
okay. We'll show the first piece. If you want as much excess going as you can, I think creating a routine where at the end of the month, if you just scan through all your categories, and if you have any excess in any categories that you don't want to roll over, just pop that right into that credit card category and pay and put extra there. I would caution you though not to do that with any rule 2 categories. So if you're saving for auto maintenance, you want that to roll over, right? But if it's like, hey, I got extra in groceries, just pop it right up there. If I got a little extra in entertainment, pop it in there, extra in personal spending, do that as much as you can. And I think that's a really good way to kind of just make sure you send as much as you can to the credit card.
Leading up to the end of the month, before you spend, look at your category balances every single time, right? Just kind of be aware of where you stand.
Absolutely.
And that's going to guide a lot of spending decisions, because you're going to know, I want to be as aggressive as possible. So do I really want this Chipotle at 10 o'clock at night, or should I just throw in the frozen pizza that's in the freezer kind of thing? And it helps you save money along the way then.
Yeah. Now let's encourage you to rethink your question here, Susie. I think that this kind of a mindset, while it's really powerful, especially when you first get started, and I think you should do it for a little while, like really try to throw as much money as you can, it can be unsustainable. You can kind of, even if you're budgeting, you can kind of drive yourself crazy a little bit if you're like, because imagine this. Here, let me give you an example. Let's say you set aside, $100 in an entertainment category or like a fun money category, right? If you have this mindset of like, okay, any money I don't spend in this category, I'm going to move to the credit card. Every single time you spend money in that category, you're going to be like, oh, this could go to the credit card. This
Good
could
point.
go to the credit card, right? And I think that's okay for a short time, but eventually I think it's going to lead to burnout where I don't want you to be in this place where you're kind of a bundle of nerves and you're questioning every single spending decision when you're actually making the purchase, because the time to question the spending decisions is when you're actually planning your spending. That's when you're really thinking about, okay, what do I value, and then afterwards I want you to feel a little more free to spend while also knowing that you're paying down on that credit card, so try that. If you want to just like go whole hog and be like, how much can I send to this credit card in the next 3 months, like try it, but also recognize you might start to get a little burned out. And I think it helps if you say, okay, the credit card is going to get $200 a month, and that's what's going to happen. The credit card's going to get $200 a month, and that's what it's going to get. And you're not going to, and you just make a plan and you're a little more steady with it, and it can be a little more sustainable in the long run.
And what I was going to add there is rule 2, habit 2, embracing those true expenses.
Absolutely.
You don't want to get super aggressive with the debt pay down where you take all these steps forward and then all of a sudden something unexpected happens and you weren't prepared for it. There's big car repair, big medical expense, home repair, stuff like that. And then you go all these steps backwards. And so by not getting super aggressive you can save more cash. So when those things happen, you're ready, and they just become this little bump in the road, and you can kind of keep going. So you maintain that debt payoff momentum instead of always, rushing forward and then going backwards.
Yeah. I think this is really good. Stacey said, is that at the expense of true expenses? And I think you were talking about trying to put as much as you can toward the debt. I think when folks get started, they really go whole hog on this, and they're like, "Oh, I got to go as much debt." And a lot of the personal finance advice out there is like, shut it all down, don't save any money, throw it all at the debt, and it can put you in this cycle like Ernie was talking about. We call it the debt cycle, where you pay off the debt and then it goes right back onto the card when your car breaks down, instead trying to do these things to prevent debt, and maybe slowing down the debt pay down a little bit because of it is a more sustainable progress. And I think as far as motivation goes, the quick progress followed by the backward slope is way more demotivating than slower, steadier progress.
Yeah.
So that's good.
And I found as I went with the slow and steady that, as you keep saving for those true expenses, that the windfalls then could become these actual windfalls that I used to put towards the debt. So even though it felt like I was going slower, I think I actually sped things up.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
Dude, I hear that story all the time. People are like, "Oh yeah, I made a plan, I stuck to it, and I managed to pay off the debt 5 months sooner than I thought."
Yeah.
But I also hear the opposite, where it's like, when we talk about this prioritizing true expenses over debt pay down, when we talk about that, people are like, "Oh, that's the missing piece, because I've paid off so much debt, and then it all came back, because I wasn't able to prevent future debt with rule 2 there." So that's huge. Yeah, Trish said, that's my big goal next year. Sorry, I have to show Trish since she's my sister. That's my big goal next year, just being very consistent and looking at my categories before I spend. That is the moment. I think a lot of people use YNAB for 6 months or a year even, just kind of tracking, but when you actually start to form the habit of checking it before you spend every single time as much as possible, that's when you go from tracking to actually planning and actually changing your whole life. So it's huge. And there's going to be seasons where you slow down a little bit more on it, and seasons where you really go hard on it.
This is too funny not to share. Ernie, you're excited for your bubble bath budget time tomorrow.
Oh yeah, it is tomorrow.
Now, before you sign off and like freaked out about this cult that you might be becoming a part of, there's this ongoing joke, and I think you started it.
I don't know where it came from, Ernie. I don't know.
And you just keep, pushing it forward. I'm okay with it though. So at the end of every single month, I have like this Zen budgeting time where, it's just me and the budget. The kids are off in their bedrooms. I'm next to Christy on the couch, and I just kind of wrap up the month, and I reconcile all my accounts, and I update my investment accounts, and apparently I do that in the bathtub.
The first time you told me about this, I was like, oh, I could see Ernie in the bathtub with his with his laptop, which is very dangerous, doing all this, because you talked about it like such a Zen thing. And so now anytime you're live, I'm like, where the bathtub?
So no bubble bath, but honestly, I am excited, and I've known all week Thursday is the last day of the month, and so I'm excited to get into YNAB.
Doing it. I love it. Light a candle, says Stacy. Look at this. Darcy says, I want to say your software works. I've been able to save $3,500 in 6 months. Whoa, it's a lot of money.
A lot of moolah.
Way to go, Darcy. And you know what? Like the software works, the method works, but really, Darcy works. That's what happened. You did it.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see that. Don't forget the face mask, Sydney. Oh man, it's getting even. I can visualize it even more. All right. Are you going to do your December budget live? Laura wants to know.
No,
not this time.
No plans of it.
Not this time.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've done a live one.
Do you think you'll bring the live things back?
I think I will do them again.
I'm too scared, Ernie. I haven't done it, so I don't know. I probably won't ever do it. I think you're wild for showing people.
That's all right. That's all right. I probably shouldn't be doing it, but I just like doing it.
No, you should do it. You should do it. Somebody said, "What's your funniest?" Where was that? what's your funniest category name? What's your funniest category name, Ernie? I mean, you have anything super?
Oh, let me scroll through. I don't have anything funny.
I mean, for me, diapers sounds funny because it has a poop emoji. I'll put that in the chat.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing worded funny. But the category that we use for the boys, we have 3 teenage boys, is the wind emoji. And one time when I was in YNAB, my youngest looked over my shoulder and he saw that and he's like, dude. I'm like, well,
I mean,
tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'm scrolling. I think the poop emoji for the diapers. I mean, that just makes sense. I don't think that's original. I'm sure everybody does that, but that's what diapers are for, right? There you go. Stacy says, "I love the lives." Thank you. Maybe we'll do more of it. Trisha's, oops, I didn't think that through. Love that. Love that. Oh, we were getting more. Oh, there's that. That's what it looks like. Oh man. Well, do you think we should wrap it up, Ernie? Is that have we got through all the questions we want to?
Let's do one more.
Okay.
I'm a huge people pleaser.
I don't want to leave anything.
And we got this email. Honestly, I think it's 2 years ago from Anne. Anne and her boyfriend, they're 2 Midwestern millennials. And I think it was like here's a topic you could talk about on the show. And I realized I never responded to her. And it's always been on the back of my mind to address this question. So now is the time. So let me put this in here. Oh boy, it's broken up again.
It's going to be broken up. That's all right.
All right. How does one overcome budgeting momentum, trying to move from a lifestyle you're comfortable with and is financially stable to start prioritizing more long-term expenses like house down payment, a wedding, trip of a lifetime? My boyfriend and I are a month ahead in our budgeting. We have emergency savings and such built up, but feel very stuck in terms of how to start saving significantly for significantly larger expenses such that they aren't 10 years down the line. Anything off the top of your head?
Let me read it again. How does one overcome budgeting momentum trying to? So it's like how do you deal with is it kind of that like short-term, long-term tension?
Yeah. Life is really comfortable right now, but we see where we want to go. Here's my first thought. Let me know what you think about this. Is actually start living that way. Like, here's where we want to be. And so we're going to start living that way. And so create the wedding category, create the house category, and start putting money aside every single month. Like, those things are a reality, and just see how that feels.
Right.
I mean, and that maybe doesn't work for the wedding because that's not an ongoing expense, but like for the house, it's going to be X amount more estimated than our rent, or maybe the equal amount.
I like that.
So let's try this on for size. And so you actually, the fun thing is you're actually saving money. There's nothing hypothetical there.
Right.
Cash. It's real money you're setting aside. So one, it's going to give you like, oh yeah, this is something that we can totally pull off based on our income. And it's going to give you this pile of money that you actually saved for that priority.
I love that because it's kind of like, okay, I know I want to reach these goals, but I'm not yet willing to cut back in order to do so. So if you call it an experiment, and say, okay, we're going to try it for 1 month. What would it take to save X amount toward house down payment or emergency fund or whatever the financial goal is, and just try it? You might even find that you don't miss that spending as much as you thought you would, and just give it a try. So if you call it an experiment, it could become permanent, but I think it helps to kind of ease into it a little bit. And then at the end, you have some money. So that's good.
And some money psychology here is I think naming categories is really powerful. I learned this from Lee when we interviewed him a few months ago. He was the example of, he doesn't like emergency fund. Like, it makes him kind of freak out. So he puts something more brain positive I forget what his emergency fund, maybe he calls it savings, like
Yeah.
that. And I noticed the same in my own plan, where for like the emergency, the savings, I switched it to options. Well, first I switched it to dream home,
Okay.
because Christy and I are always thinking about our next home, even though we just moved into a new one. I don't know, we're addicted. We're addicted to
I mean,
home.
you gotta have something to look forward to,
But when I named it that, it really got me excited and
Interesting.
really
Yeah.
wanted me to focus on building that category up. So if you can name it something where it brings a spark to your eye, it gets your heart going, you're like, yes, this is what my boyfriend and I want, I think you're more likely to make it happen.
Yeah. Sometimes it helps, and you can go the other way with this too. Like if there's something that you think you want, add it to your budget. Like even if you're not planning on funding that category right now, just add it. Maybe put it at the top so it kind of you see it a lot, and just see if it starts to kind of attract money. You know,
Mhm.
and if it doesn't for a few months, you might realize, hey, maybe I don't want this thing so much, especially if it's something more superficial, like but like like a thing you want to buy. Um, and you might find other ways to get it instead. So yeah, just kind of like put it in the budget, look at it every once in a while, see how you feel about it. I think that helps.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, Ernie, I wanted to talk about a new feature that's coming out. 'Cause we said we
Ooh.
would. We told Ashley we'd talk about it, I think. Snoozing a target. Very, very exciting. This is rolling out to people right now. So if you don't have it yet, just sit tight. Should be out to you in a week or so. I want to venture to say, depending on if we find any big bugs or anything. So what this is if you have a target in YNAB, and let's say like this, mostly what it's for is if your budget's all funded, everything's green, and then you move money to follow rule 3. Yeah, you move money out of entertainment to go out to eat or something like that. That category turns yellow and it says, "Hey, this is underfunded now." And it's like, I know it's underfunded. I like quit telling me. You can snooze it now. So it'll turn that category gray or green instead of yellow, and you don't have to worry about it anymore.
And then
So
the target picks up next month.
and then the target picks up next month. Exactly. So you can only snooze it for the current month, so you don't like forget about it and
Yeah.
forget to fund it and then get yourself into trouble, right? And it's really, really nice. So yeah, Beth said she already has it. So a lot of folks probably already do.
I feel like, yeah, the comment finally. I was gonna say, Ben,
Yes.
you don't even need to explain what that target does.
Everybody knows.
They know it. They've been waiting for
These
it.
are our people. These are budget nerds. They're like, finally, yes, we've been
I
asking
hate
for it.
yellow.
Because for so long we've told people, "Oh, just ignore the yellow, like it's fine." And I feel like I'm saying it like I know it's not really fun. I know it's really annoying. But and there's also like workarounds where like, oh, go to the next month and delete the target and create it there.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like, it's crazy. So yeah, this is just elegant. There's cute little Z marks. I don't have like a way to show you right now, but like it's really cute. The UI is really cute. So
Yeah.
anyways,
I
that's
know.
coming out soon.
I tell people that all the time. Like, just don't worry about it. But like inside, it drives me nuts. And as soon as I got the beta version, I was snoozing targets all over. I'm like, I love this so much. I love it.
It's the best. It's the best. It's just the best. So, and yeah, it's even worked in on the web app. When you hit the little move money box feature, is probably an official name for it. You hit the available amount and the box comes up. There's a little tick to say snooze the target. So right when you move the money, you can automatically snooze it, and it's nice. So
Yeah.
that's coming out. A lot of you guys probably already have it. If you don't have it yet, it should be in the next week or so, unless we can't find some major bug, because you can beta test stuff, and you beta test it with like a few thousand people, and then you send it out to hundreds of thousands of people, and it's like, oh, this is broken. So but it shouldn't be a problem. I think it's all good. So so long as everything goes according to plan, you should get it pretty soon, and you'll get an in-app message talking about it when you get there. So very exciting.
Well, Ben, we went
in the mobile app too. Sorry, Ernie.
Oh, that's
quick question: is it in the mobile app? Yes, it is.
Yep.
Mobile and web. Yep.
I think that's it, my friend.
All right. It is 4:04 p.m. my time, so
Yeah, time to
we're over
sign
an
off for
hour.
the day, huh?
I was like, when I started with Ernie, I was like, "Oh, if we only go like half an hour, that's all right. If it slows down, of course, me and Ernie can talk forever. You probably have noticed through the years, Budget Nerds has gotten longer and longer. And everybody says like, "Hey, keep it going. We don't mind." So we do it. So
I do mind. I try to keep these under an hour. I know Ben doesn't, but at just an hour for me.
I mean, I'm doing 80% of the talking anyway, so it's I'm probably the problem.
And I'll just let you know too, moving forward. So December we have a long break, company break, and so in 2 weeks I don't think we have a video. So
Okay.
the next video is coming out the very end of December.
Oh goodness, is break already happening in 2 weeks? I have a lot of work to do before then. Ernie.
Yeah, so there's only one Budget Nerds video coming in December, and the topic is there's no such thing as savings.
Oh yeah,
I think
that's
that's
good.
yeah. You wrote a blog post, and
man, we recorded that so long ago. I like barely remember it.
No, we haven't recorded it yet.
Oh, we haven't recorded it.
We're recording it in a couple weeks.
I'm fine, guys. I'm fine. Everything's fine. Yeah, there's no such thing as saving money. We'll talk about it. We will talk about it because we haven't talked about it yet. I was assumed I forgot, but no, there we go.
Oh, this has been a lot of fun. So thanks, everyone. Appreciate everything.
All right. Happy YNABing, everybody.
See ya.